All right, on this first one, you're practicing taking out the greatest common factor, which is the largest number that will divide evenly into every single term. If you're not good at knowing your multiplication facts, you can do this on your calculator. You click Math, write 9, and you can only put in the first two numbers, so 4, 16. And all of those numbers divide by 4. So let's make sure, does 4 go into 8? Yes, it does. So 4 is part of your GCF, but all of these also share something else. They all share an N. So that is your GCF. You can automatically eliminate A and C because that didn't take out the entire GCF. Now you divide each part by 4N. 4 divided by 4 is 1. N cubed divided by N is N squared. Plus 16 divided by 4 is 4. N squared divided by N is N. Minus 8 divided by 4 is 2, and you took away the N. So your answer is B. You can always check your answer by multiplying this back out. A lot of you are very strong with multiplying. So if you were to multiply this out, 4n times n squared gives you 4n cubed. Remember PEMDAS. When you multiply, you add the exponents. When you divide, you subtract the exponents. So I'm multiplying, so an n1 and n squared gives me n3, plus 4 times 4 is 16. N times n gives me n squared. 4 times negative 2 is a negative 8, and it has the n. That gets me back to my original. All right, on this one, so we're going to ask ourselves if it first has a GCF. I know 4 divides by 4 divides by 4, and 8 divides by 4. So let's check and make sure that 96 also divides by 4. Yes, it does. It's 24. So first thing I'm going to do is take out my GCF. I divide each of these by 4. I'm left with k squared minus 2k minus 24. This has a k squared, so we're going to put it in our box. Your first term goes in the first box. Your last term goes in the last box. You multiply across to find the middle spot. So 1 times negative 24 is negative 24. And the middle spot is a negative 2. So to do this in your calculator, you take negative 24 divided by x and negative 24 divided by x plus x. Negative 24 divided by x in y1, negative 24 divided by x plus x in y2. Make sure you're showing all of your work so you can get credit when you turn this in. Just circling the multiple choice answer does not get you credit. So I am looking for a negative 2 over here, and that happens with 4 and negative 6. So you put a 4k in one and a negative 6k in the other. This has a negative, so I know right away I've got to pull out the negative. Both of these terms have a k. Both of those terms can divide by a negative 6. Both of those terms have a k, and both of those can divide by 4. And again, if you don't know how to find GCF, you can do math, write 9. Math, write 9. And I'm trying to find the GCF of 4 and 24. Your calculator can't do negatives. So you do 4, comma, 24, and it's 4. Math, write 9, 6, comma, 24, and it's 6. I need to take the negative out because it was right there. So the first factor we had was 4. Then one side is k minus 6, and the other side is k plus 4. This one is your answer. 3, find the GCF. So the calculator can do the 22 and the 11. Math, write 9, 22, comma, 11. It's 11. then you're looking for the lowest exponent. So what's my lowest m exponent? 5 and 2, so 2. And your lowest n exponent, 3 and 4, is 3. So 11m squared n cubed. There you go. So just as a reminder, you look for the lowest exponent. The area of a garden. Area. You find area by doing length times width. Is this number. Which of the following represent the length and the width? So we're factoring. We're trying to figure out what multiplies together to give me that area. So I'm going to put that in the box. There's not a GCF because the first term is just an n squared. The last term is 63. So you multiply across to find the middle spot. So I'm looking for 16. And go to y equals 63 divided by x, 63 divided by x plus x. And I'm looking for 15. Oh, 16, just kidding. So 7 and 9. So 7n, 9n. There's no negatives to pull out. Both of those terms have an n. Both of those terms have an n. The GCF of those is 9. The GCF of those is 7. So your factors are n plus 9 and n plus 7. Just because this has the same numbers does not mean that that is your length and your width. The answer is none of the above because none of them match those two factors. So next one. There's no GCF, so I just fill in my box. X squared, negative 24. Multiply across. 1 times negative 24 is negative 24. To find the middle spot, 5. So I take negative 24 divided by x. Negative 24 divided by x plus x. And I am looking for a 5. 8 and negative 3. So 8x, negative 3x. There's the negative. I've got to pull it out. Both of those can divide by 3. Both of those have an x. Both of those have an x. Both of those can divide by 8. You don't pull out the negative because the first box is not negative. So your factors are x minus 3 and x plus 8. X plus 8, x minus 3. It doesn't matter what order it's in as long as the signs go together. Find the product. When you square something, that means you're multiplying it by itself. So this is 3x minus 2 times 3x minus 2. This is a PST, a perfect square trinomial. Alright, sorry about that. So this is a perfect square trinomial because both sides are exactly the same. It makes a perfect square. All the sides are the same. So they want me to find the product. So I'm going to multiply it out. On one side we've got 3x minus 2. On the other side we've got 3x minus 2. 3 times 3 gives me 9. X and x is x squared. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. And there's an x. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. And there's an x. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Add the diagonal. So we get 9x squared. Negative 6 plus a negative 6 is a minus 12x. And then plus 4. There's your answer. Which of the following is the correct setup for the table method when using x plus 3 and 2x minus 4? So we call it the box method. But you have to make sure that this is one side and this is the other. X plus 3, 2x minus 4. So B. It doesn't matter which side you put each factor, but they have to stay together on one side. All right, which of the following would result in a perfect square trinomial? So that's what we talked about. Both sides have to be exactly the same. These have different signs. This is a dot. They're almost the same, but they have different signs. This is a perfect square. Both sides would be 4n minus 3. 9. Factor the following. This has an x squared, so we can put it in the box. It doesn't have a GCF. There's nothing that can divide into both of those. So 25x squared, negative 81. Multiply across. So we're taking 25 times negative 81, which is negative 2025. So multiply across to find the middle spot. Well, there is no middle, so that means you're looking for 0. So if I do negative 2025 divided by x, negative 2025 divided by x plus x. I need a 0. Negative 45 and positive 45. So negative 45x, positive 45x. You can find the GCF of each one. Again, your calculator can do that for you. Math, write 9, 45, comma 81. 9. Math, write 9, 25, comma 45. 5. And they both have an x. These I've already done. So 5 and then x. And then this is going to be a negative 9 because the first thing we see is the negative. So my factors are 5x plus 9 and 5x minus 9. Now, this is a dot. So if you had recognized beforehand that this was a dot, a difference of two squares, you can just know that 25 breaks into 5x times 5x. 81, or negative 81, can break into a negative 9 and a positive 9. So your factors have to be 5x minus 9 and 5x plus 9. Here, factor completely. Okay, don't freak out because it's got y's. This is going to be like your bonus question on your test. So the very first step, GCF, I can divide every single one of those by 5. So if I divide this by 5, and this by 5, I get x squared minus 3xy plus 2y squared. And I'm going to put it in the box. We got an x squared here and a 2y squared here. We multiply across. So 1 times 2 is 2 to find the middle spot, which is negative 3. That's going to be negative 2 and negative 1. This is xy in the middle. So negative 2xy, negative 1xy. I know I've got to pull out the negative, and those both have a y. Those both have an x. Those both have an x. Those both have a negative, because it starts with a negative, a 2, and a y. So the first factor was 5, so it can't be a or c. And then one of my factors is x minus 2y. X minus 2y. The other one is x minus y. So there's your answer. Divide. So they're asking us to find 9x plus 6 over 3x plus 2. I can't put either of those in the box because there's no squares. If I had just given you this, does that have a GCF? Yes, you can divide those both by 3. So if I divide this by 3 and divide this by 3, that gives 9 divided by 3 is 3x plus 6 divided by 3 is 2. Now you have an entire factor that'll cancel out. So your answer is just 3. Ooh, I got to do the box for the top, and I have to do the box for the bottom. There's no GCF, so you can go straight to the box. X squared, 12, multiply across, gives you 12, to find the middle spot, which is 8. So you've got 1 and 12, 2 and 6. That's it. 2x and 6x. Both of those can be divided by 6. And remember, you could do math. Write 9, 6, 12. 6. Both of those have an x. Both of those have an x. Both of those can be divided by 2. So your factors for the top become x plus 2 and x plus 6. Then we're going to do the bottom. X squared in the first box, 18 in the last box. Multiply across. 1 times 18 is 18. To find the middle spot, which is 9. So we got 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. There you go. So 3x, 6x. Both of those can be divided by 6. Both of those have an x. Both of those have an x. Both of those can be divided by 3. So your factors for the bottom are x plus 3 and x plus 6. This whole factor is in common, so your answer is x plus 2 over x plus 3. B. I need to see all of this work if you want to get credit. Zeros. Zeros just mean x-intercepts. Remember, we have the acronym roots, zeros, x-intercepts. Math rocks. So this is at -2. This is at +3. Perfect. All right, here. Simplify. Okay, so it's just very similar to number 12. We've got x squared plus 6x plus 8 over x squared minus x minus 6. We don't use that division sign. We write it like this. So I've got to do the box for the top. X squared, 8. Multiply across to find the middle spot, which is 6. 1 and 8, 2 times 4. There we go. 2x, 4x. Both of those terms can be divided by 4. Both of those terms have an x. Both of those terms have an x. Both of those can be divided by 2. So on the top, we have x plus 2 times x plus 4. Then we need to do the bottom. X squared goes in the first box, -6 in the last box. Multiply across. 1 times -6 is -6. To find the middle spot, which is -1. So it's going to be a -3 and a +2. Remember, you can do this on your calculator. You go -6 divided by x, -6 divided by x plus x. Oops. And we're looking for a -1. I'm going to go back to 0. -1 happens at 2 and -3. So 2x, -3x. I know I've got to pull out that negative. Those terms can both be divided by 3. Those both have an x. Those both have an x. And those can be divided by 2. So on the bottom, we have x minus 3 and x plus 2. The x plus 2's cancel out, so I have an x plus 4 on top. Can't be A or D. Then I have an x minus 3 on the bottom. So your answer is C. Here, you're practicing solving for y. This is the isolate. Opposite side. To move over a 10x, you do minus 10x, and you write it side by side. So that gives you -2y equals 6 minus 10x. So we've isolated, opposite side, side by side. You have to divide. Divide everything by -2. So you get y equals 6 divided by -2 is -3. Negative and a negative is a positive 5x. So it has a +5 slope. Yes. And then a minus 3a is your answer. Which this technically is not wrong, it's just not fully completed. It's not in slope-intercept form. Uh, 16. What is the 0 of the line? 0 just means x-intercept. So it's right here at -1. All right, which graph represents this function? So before I can graph it, I have to solve for y. So we isolate opposite side. To get rid of a 6x, you do minus 6x, and you write it side by side. So that gives us -3y equals 12 minus 6x. And then you divide each part by -3. So y equals 12 divided by -3 is -4. -6 divided by -3 is a positive 2x. So the y-intercept needs to be at -4. That's only this one. Those are all positives. Okay. And just to check, the slope needs to be 2, so you start at -1, 2, 3, 4, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. Fits it perfectly. Write it in completely factored form. So this is similar to the one we did at the beginning. What number goes into 22 and into 11? You can do this by expansion. So this means 2 times 11 times m to the 5th is m 5 times, and then n 3 times. Plus, that's just 11. That's a prime number. You can't break it into anything else. And then m 2 times, n 4 times. You're looking for what they both have in common. They both have an 11. They both have 2 m's. So m2. And then they both have 3 n's. So that's your GCF. And then you're going to say what's left. So this term still has a 2, and it has an m 1, 2, 3 times. Plus, this term only has n left. There you go. And this is that expansion. So in the boxes on your test, if you see show it expanded, that's what it means. Dividing powers. Let's do this with expansion too. 32 is the same thing as 8 times 4. X to the 6th means x, 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 x. Over, you've got a 4. This means x, x. The 4's cancel out, and x cancels, and x cancels. So I am just left with 8, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. X to the 4th. That's your answer. You could also use your rules. When you divide, you subtract the exponents. So 6 minus 2 has to be a 4. 32 divided by 4, those are normal numbers, it's just 8. Okay, now we're simplifying monomials. When you multiply, you add the exponents. 2 times 6, those are normal numbers, that gives you 12. A, 2 and 3 gives you 5 A's. B's, 4 and 2 gives you 6 B's. Z's, this is a 1 right here and a 5, so Z6. So 12, A5, B6, Z6. And you could expand it out. This means 2, A, B, 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 Z, times 6, A, B, B, Z, 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 Z. 2 times 6 is 12. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 A's. B's, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 B's. Z's, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Z's. Here, So you're multiplying, so we need to use the box. When you're multiplying, they're giving you the outside. So 4s minus 9, 5s minus 8. 5 times 4 is 20. S and S is s squared. 5 times negative 9 is negative 45, and there's an S. 4 times 8 is negative 32, and there's an S. Negative 8 and negative 9 is a positive 72. Add the diagonal. So the first term is 20 s squared. Negative 32 plus a negative 45 is a negative 77, right? Why isn't that an answer choice? S and then plus 72. So none of these are correct. This would be the closest, but this is your correct answer. All right, direct variation. This is a throwback question. Okay, so we're setting up a table. They're giving us y values and x values. So x, y. They're telling us y is 39 when x is 3. So what's the value of y when x is 2? So you're cross multiplying and then dividing. So 2 times 39 divided by 3. 26. Perfect. Select the correct graph. So before I can graph this, it has to be in standard form, or slope-intercept form. So that means I have to divide everything by negative 3. Wee-oo, wee-oo. When you divide by a negative, what do you have to do to the inequality? Flip it. So it's no longer going to be greater than or equal to, it's less than or equal to. Negative and a negative is a positive 7/3 x. 6 divided by negative 3 is a negative 2. So if you remember Slim Shady, he looks like he's doing the right thing. This symbol matches the nose, so it has to be shaded below and a solid line. This is shaded below and a solid line. This is shaded below and a solid line. This is not shaded below. This is shaded below but a dotted line. So it needs to start at negative 2. This starts at negative 1. This starts at negative 2. And it'd be going up 7/3. So it's got to be A. All right, find the slope of the line that passes through these 2 points. I like to create tables, so 10(1) and 5(2). If you remember, you can do this in Stat. Stat, edit, we're typing in our points. Then you click Stat, right, 4, because this is a line. So it's y equals negative 0.2x plus 3. It's asking for the slope, so negative 0.2. Math, negative 0.2. Math, enter, enter. That means negative 1/5. But maybe you don't remember all those handy calculator steps. Slope means delta y over delta x, the rate of change. So to get from 1 to 2, you add 1. To get from 10 to 5, you're subtracting 5. The y goes on top, so 1 over negative 5, which is negative 1/5. The total height of the tree, y, after x years can be modeled using a linear function. The tree starts at 4 feet tall and grows, that means we're adding an additional 2.5 feet per. Anytime you see per, you're going to be putting x next to it. So it's 2.5x. The tree grows for a maximum of 11 years. All right, so our equation is we've got 4 plus 2.5x. What is the range? Dr. XY, range means y values. So if I plug this in my calculator, because they gave me an equation, or I wrote an equation, 4 plus 2.5x, starts off at 4. So the lowest height is 4. Well, that already tells you right there. You can't have negative years, okay? So the y values, the lowest we have is 4. And then it's going for a max of 11 years. So at 11 years, it's going to be 31.5. So this is your correct answer. Because they're telling us that x is years and the y is the height. The least amount of years is 0. The max is 11 years. This matched up with 4. This matched up with 31.5. Fantastic. All right, make sure you have all of your work when you turn this in. Y'all have a great day.